Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Double One Radio Gamescast. This is episode number 23. We're chugging along. We got some news to talk about. A smattering of very different things this time. I'm your host, Ryan, and I'm joined by a nice little rogues gallery that includes Ben.
That's me.
Tess.
What's up?
Brett.
We are rogues now, I guess.
And Wyatt.
It's a me.
Thematic. I think
I
we're talking about
see.
Mario.
Because we didn't, yeah.
Yeah, good callback to 5 minutes ago.
Took me all week to come up with that.
Yeah, all week. 100%. Okay. So, we do a new thing at the start of the shows now. We used to do a game. I don't think everyone's been here since we swapped over. Now we do awards. Alright? We do a nice little award show, and last week we did the Double One Radio Gamescast Greatest Game Award 2020 edition, week 2, in which Dreams is the current holder of the title. But this week we are not going to be doing the Greatest Game Awards because, we want to wait a little longer so we have a lot of contenders for the end of the year because we're like only 2/3 of the way through the year. And Cyberpunk is probably going to take it, so... Alright. That means this week we are instead doing the Double One Radio Worst Beta 2020 edition. There is only one nominee in this category, and it is called Marvel's Avengers.
Man.
Unless
Does it
anyone
even
has
count?
surprise nominees, surprise nominees for a bad award.
I'm thinking so hard for this year. I don't even think I've played a single
See,
video
Mortal
game
Shell
this
had a beta,
entire
but Mortal
year.
Shell's beta was good. So
Yeah.
we can
You know
say
that
it's
people-
in this award category, but it's not really nominated because there's no one that's going to say it was bad.
Yeah.
I can
So-
think of
Not
so many
worst.
examples, but none of them came out this year.
Yeah, most of them aren't from
Yeah.
this year. A lot of them are from last year or the year before. So that means by default, Marvel's Avengers is winning probably the only award it should right now. The Double One Radio Gamescast Worst Beta 2020 Award.
Dude, I don't
A
know what
beta-
you're talking about. People are loving that game, and I'm not even joking. Like,
Well,
have you
no, I'm
seen
talking
people
about the
talk
beta,
about it?
though. This was the
It's
beta.
just the beta.
This is why
Okay.
we're saying the beta is the worst, because they chose bad parts of the game to show. And
a beta.
yeah, they didn't show what the game was good at, which apparently it's good at quite a few things. Not everything, but a few things. Which
A
we'll
beta
talk
Would
about.
have known.
A beta that is so bad it won the Worst of the Year award, not by its lack of merit or even its merit, just by existing.
Yeah, that's exactly.
That's how bad
By
it is.
being the only really bad beta this year. I'm sure there probably is something else, like an internal beta that's really bad, but
But public.
the biggest, this is definitely the highest profile bad beta.
Yeah.
I'm even looking
Maybe
this
we'll
stuff.
get
I don't
another
even-
contender for this category before the end of the year. Maybe we will. As of
Let's
right now,
hope not.
though, let's hope not. But as of right now, Marvel's Avengers is taking it handily. Little round of golf claps from Avengers.
Some poetry snaps.
Yeah, some poetry snaps. All right. So
I can't snap. I'm sorry.
yeah, that's fine. So I think the first thing we're going to talk about is the Avengers critical reception, because it's a pretty easy thing, I think, to get out of the way early on before we get into the meat of the Mario stuff and NVIDIA tech and all that jazz. We have a few small things from Marvel's Avengers that have made it get much higher critical reception than I think Wyatt or I specifically expected. I think everyone else here is probably not expecting great things from this either.
Yeah.
But it is getting, I don't want to say very positive, but it's getting like middling to positive
Which
reviews.
is more than both of us were expecting.
Yeah, because like I think it's important here. The beta archives are uploaded. You can watch them, and it was a train wreck. Like Wyatt and I were both having tons of bugs, and they were completely separate bugs. Like we were both
And-
having awful experiences, but for completely separate reasons, and that's super concerning.
And after 2 hours of playing the game, we were never able to play a game together. The matchmaking was just
Yeah, it was completely broken. And yeah, in general, it just wasn't working. So I don't know. I feel like that was there's been a lot of articles coming out now about why that's a good proof of why sometimes betas are not the best idea. Like, I'm just so confused as to why that's what they decided to show.
built from January.
Because the thing is, like, if they said that was a build from January and then showed us the final game, I would almost believe it. Like
It's
having
yeah.
having watched some gameplay of the final version, I think important note here: none of us, I think, have bought Avengers.
I'm not. Look,
it-
even after the reception,
yeah.
I'm not doing it.
I'll probably pick it up when it's on sale for like $20 because I think inevitably it will be.
Wait, so the one that you guys played was from January?
No,
No, that was
that's
a
the
joke.
joke.
Yeah,
That was a
But
joke.
it totally could have been.
we don't. Well,
Yeah.
It could have been from January. We really don't know.
But it was so polished. Like in some areas, it was so polished visually.
I
that
think
it's like,
my
it
best
didn't-
bet is probably that this was meant to be like an E3 show floor demo to show to journalists, and that it was just super unpolished. Because like it was around E3 times this year. I'm sure they probably had something put together. I feel like that's what happened, or something along those lines.
The thing that's interesting though, and I said this, I think when we talked about this, was it 1 or 2 episodes ago? But what I said, I was thinking a lot about like if I didn't have any technical issues, if the game didn't have such overbearing like visual effects and stuff, would I still enjoy it? And I was thinking to myself, like maybe sort of as like a baseless itch, but not like anything that I would want to sink hundreds of hours into. Like it was very basic.
Yeah, and that's what reviewers are saying. They're saying the campaign is written extremely well. Like I've been hearing great things about the campaign, and it's
Really?
fun. Yeah, like apparently it's very good. And we were correct when we were playing the beta. We were like, it feels like there's just a big chunk of game missing here. There is. There's a giant chunk of game missing between the tutorial bit and then the actual next part that's in the final game. So the beta just was weird. And yeah, it showed some strange parts of the game, and people have been a lot more positive about it now. They're also a lot more positive about how the heroes play once you have them leveled up and unlock actual abilities. Like, because every hero has 3 skill trees, and in the beta you could only see 1, and so it wasn't really clear what the others would be. They're just as detailed as the first one, and they have tons of options for what to do. So there's a lot more build variety. There's a lot more like actual gameplay progression, and none of that is gated behind any kind of like microtransactions or any monetary stuff.
And to be clear,
yeah.
we Ryan and I, we did see some potential. Like there were some characters that were a lot of fun to play.
Like
stand
Cap
out for
was a
both
lot
of
of
us.
fun.
Cap was great. I wanted a whole game on Cap actually because I just thought his mechanics were great.
Yeah, and the like 10 minutes I played of Iron Man were cool, but
yeah,
Kamala felt iffy. I don't think she was bad. It's just not my kind of character.
Hulk was terrible.
But Hulk was wet noodle boy.
Yeah.
Wet noodle.
Dude, you gotta hit someone like 6 times as Hulk to knock a robot out. And I'm like, Hulk should be taking out whole crowds of people at once.
That's kind of what Ben mentioned. And it's something I hadn't even thought about, but it's totally true that like some of these characters, like you have to try and fit them within like a similar design in a way, and you just can't do that with some of these characters. Like Hulk should play very differently.
It's why Hulk is not in every Marvel movie, right? Because he's a different thing. It's why like Thor disappears for a while. Aside from just like licensing out actors, it's also has to do with like narratively you need to not have these characters there, or else they could just completely trivialize threats.
Yeah, it's like Superman in any story ever.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got to be off in a distant corner of space doing something else, right? Like he's got to be fighting something else. And having Hulk be playable in the same context as Hulk and Thor be playable in the same context as Black Widow and Hawkeye is a little bit like I like those 4 characters a lot individually, but some of them are street level, some of them are much bigger threat level, and it doesn't feel good to reduce everyone to a street level person like Batman. Because like everyone loves the Batman games, they're great, but they're a certain kind of enjoyment, and Hulk does not fit with that.
No.
Like that's not what you expect out of Hulk. But I have been hearing better things about a lot of it, especially once you get rolling in the skill trees and get your cool stuff unlocked.
I still don't agree with the loot kind of system that they have here.
So a lot of the confusion, or not confusion, a lot of the like mixed reception is coming from the fact it seems like Crystal Dynamics wanted to make a good narrative focused Avengers game, and Square Enix's is presumably like economics or whatever department was handling that, producers wanted it to be like this looter shooter weird combination of things, and it's just like Marvel doesn't really work as a looter shooter.
No, it does not.
It's weird. It's almost like Crystal Dynamics, developers of the most recent Tomb Raider games, are really good at making narratively driven linear action games. That's so weird.
And then of course there was like the whole performance issues with the beta have been sorted out, and that's the
Have
thing that
they?
stuns me. Yeah, they have. That's the thing that
'Cause I've-
stunned me because
I've
Wyatt and I had
seen,
so
like,
many issues.
I've definitely seen gameplay from people playing like the release version of a game where it was still a mess.
It's still a little bit choppy, I think, but it's like the visual glitches and stuff were weird. Like those aren't happening now. The frame rate is, I think, like a lot steadier from what I've been watching. At least on the pro editions of consoles. I think the base ones are still pretty rough. I do know the PC version is much better than it started out during the beta, because apparently the PC version had some huge issues. But it's
I'm
a lot better
assuming
now.
the big thing for me, the motion blur was horrible, and it just made it really difficult to
Yeah.
tell what was going on sometimes. I wonder, I don't know, I don't think you can turn them off from the console version unless I'm mistaken. But
Yeah, don't know.
it's usually something that they have in PC that you can turn off, so hopefully you can there.
All right. So I think the last thing to mention, we did talk briefly about Avengers having the $10 character battle passes. Important note, those are only going to be for new characters. That's not the characters that already exist. So it's a little bit less scummy. It's still scummy. But it's not quite, you need to pay another $60 to get all the content in the game that you're being given.
It's a lot of money for a $60.
And you
game.
can earn, I think, all of the cosmetics in game. It's just through like vendors that require grinding. So you can earn the stuff. It just takes forever, and you may not get the thing you want. From what I'm hearing, like it's on like a rotating schedule or something. So
I don't think I'll ever agree with a paid battle pass and a paid.
yeah, I don't. I would get it for the new
Ever.
characters if it was like you pay for a season pass and you get the new characters and their passes for like $20, right? But they're planning to do like a lot of new characters for this game. They've already announced they're doing like Ant-Man, they're doing Hawkeye and Kate Bishop, they're doing we presume Black Panther. So yeah, we're getting a lot of weird not weird characters, but a lot of characters with a lot of battle passes that are going to cost a lot of money. So yeah, it's a weird situation. I think this is definitely a game we'll have to see what the reception is going forward.
Mm-hmm. And I say this with all types of like, it's not a looter shooter, but it's a very similar kind of setup to that. It always comes down to how many times am I asked to do the same thing?
Yeah.
You know, like how can they keep the grind from not being totally soul crushing like it is in Destiny?
And I think the reason a lot of reviewers are having a good time with this is they know they don't have to grind, because they play the game for review, they play the story, they play a bit of the multiplayer, and then they're done, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a lot of people are probably looking for this to be a Destiny-like experience that they're playing tons of, and that's likely not what's going to happen.
We'll have to wait.
It just doesn't have that amount of content yet, but in the future it might. Like it depends on what Crystal Dynamics does going forward. And there is something else to talk about. This is not directly Avengers news, but it is sales numbers. So we have some sales numbers for the week. At place number 3, I believe we had Crusader Kings 3, which is doing well, and that's good sales numbers, especially if it's doing. We don't have exact numbers, but we have like the rankings in the UK of what games are doing the best. So the launches this week was it wasn't Crusader Kings, it's NBA 2K. So NBA 2K11 is the third best, Tony Hawk is second, and now Marvel's Avengers has taken first place, which sounds good, but important note, it has no competition right now, and it is selling about a third as much as Spider-Man PS4 did in its launch week. So it's having a rough go, at least comparatively.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the horrible thing about AAA games now is that I mean, we were just talking before we started this episode. We were just talking about the that wrestling game that EA just made, where they released the game, it got reviewed, and then they added in like advertisements, like a few weeks after launch, after the game's already reviewed. And now that more developers are starting to pull crap like that, when a game like this first comes out, I'm always super hesitant because I'm waiting for something like that to happen. And I don't know if Square Enix has a history of that or not, but I'm always cautious of that now because it's such a scummy thing to do.
Yeah,
So.
and good news for Tony Hawk fans. The game got excellent reception. It's swimming in good vibes, and I've been playing a lot of it. It's excellent. If you've played Tony Hawk games before and you want to relive them or just play them for the first time, new remaster is great. And it is doing 448% better than the last game in the series. So it's doing pretty well.
It's an apology. It's an apology, honestly.
Yeah, it's also by a different studio. Vicarious is handling this version.
Hello.
Yeah?
Sorry,
You
I
good,
put my plate in the sink, so I thought I would announce that I was back.
Thanks, Des. All right.
No problem.
So yeah, Tony Hawk's doing well. The last game was in 2015, sold terribly. This one's selling a lot better. Less than Avengers, but that's to be expected because Avengers is a huge IP.
Tony Hawk.
Yeah, the
Not the game. Just
new game is great.
Just the man.
Tony Hawk is in it.
He's such a meme. He always talks about how people are always like, "Oh my god, you look like Tony Hawk." And he's like, "Yeah."
Yeah, he does. It's
Yeah,
hilarious.
that's me.
That's his entire Twitter is Tony Hawk
He's just
talking about people thinking they vaguely recognize him, but then
But
them
they're
not
like,
realizing he's actually Tony Hawk.
"Hey, you look like that skateboarder, dude." And he's like, "Yeah, that's me."
It's very funny.
Poor thing.
Yeah. So that's our sales news. Past the top 3, NBA 2K is doing okay, not great. Yeah, that's NBA. I don't think anyone here plays NBA.
No.
And
Well, I don't
just
think any
like,
human on
Tyler.
Earth anymore plays NBA.
Yeah, but Animal Crossing is still in 4th position.
Somehow.
As it should be.
Yeah, Animal Crossing is still going very strong. And then after that, this is the surprising one. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the next one. I have a feeling that's something to do with the Mario Direct happening.
Maybe.
Like people getting Mario back in their minds. I'm like, ooh, I want to play that.
That
It
makes
is a good game, so...
Yeah, 8
it does
Deluxe
make
is
sense.
excellent.
Mario Kart
It's
is like
weird.
the only Mario games that I've ever actually kind of enjoyed.
Well, I'm just surprised because the game came out long enough where it's like, if you want Mario Kart, you probably own it at this point.
It's,
You know what I
no,
mean?
It's weird that more people are getting it.
Yeah, I mean, part of it's that Nintendo games tend to not devalue because they almost never go on sale, and if they do, it's only for like $10 off. So people will still buy them at full price, which leads to a lot of stuff like this, like Animal Crossing still going strong. Like Animal Crossing, I'm sure has like blown expectations out of the water at this point.
Oh, yeah,
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
it's like so much better than anyone really thought it was gonna be.
Yeah. Okay. So we've gotten past our like critical reception news. Oh, aside from Crusader Kings 3, which also just launched and is getting extremely high scores.
Yeah, because it's really good.
It's one of the top rated games of the year. It's one of IGN's 10 out of 10s. To be fair, they give those out like candy, but still. It's been doing really well with a lot of other reviewers. So if you're into that kind of like really deep grand strategy and you have Games Pass on PC, it's on there. Play it. It's a lot of fun. All right. So we got some other small news I want to get over before we get into the Mario stuff, because the Mario stuff is fun, right? But what's not fun is a man named Mike Z laying off all of Lab Zero games. So for people who don't know who Mike Z is, or Lab Zero is the company behind Skullgirls and Indivisible, which are both very good. Indivisible a little less so than Skullgirls, but still good. And there's been, over the past few weeks, we've talked about a few members of the team leaving and reporting things happening at the company, like the guy taking creative control over and basically just being an ass all around. Just not great stuff. And yeah, so apparently he has fired everyone, laid off everyone who didn't quit, because a lot of people had already quit. And he has not agreed to give them a severance package yet. Which,
Great.
you know, is standard practice in any industry, is when people are fired or quit, you give them a severance package.
I hate how like
yeah.
mass closings and just stuff like this has become a regular on our show now. It like happens either every week or every other week.
Well, this is also ongoing from the last few weeks. Like we've
Yeah.
had
Sure,
stuff hinting
but
at this.
It just feels like it's been a lot recently.
But it's also the reason people know this is because one of the artists from Lab Zero is selling the original physical sketchbooks because she can't live without a job and no money being paid to her.
Which is so depressing.
Yeah, it's like
That's
I'm
like
just, This is such a bad situation. And the thing is, it's not that Lab Zero was doing particularly poorly. It's all because of this one person at the top being such a trash bag to other people.
This one word that we cannot say safely without getting in trouble.
Yeah.
But
Just
boy, would I
not
love
being
to call
great.
him it.
Yeah. So that's the deal with Lab Zero. The big upsetting thing about this is that this likely means the Skullgirls and Indivisible IPs are kind of lost to the ether, and that's really disappointing, especially considering Indivisible was going to be having a bunch of like crossovers with other indie games. Some cool stuff was coming up. Skullgirls had like another character happening, and that's all kind of up in the air right now. It might still happen, at least some of it, but it's really, really hard to know.
Even if it does, it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm happy that like the indivisible characters are getting into other games, but like now it's like getting credit to the one guy that owns them now, and he's not cool, so I don't want that anymore.
Well, I'm really hoping what happens is someone buys the IP from him and gets the rest of the team. That's the ideal situation. Likely that won't happen.
Who knows,
but
man?
the thing about this is Mike Z is probably universally blacklisted from the games industry now.
Oh, for sure, yeah, unless you're insane.
Yeah. So I think something a lot of people who aren't in the games industry in some form are not really aware of the fact that blacklisting is very popular in the games industry. And it's not necessarily like film studio blacklisting where you'll get blacklisted for like not complying with something. It's more like if you are a trash bag to people in the games industry, you will not be able to work on games with them. You might be able to release games by yourself, but working with other people, unless they don't know who you are, is probably going to be really difficult.
Good luck.
It also kind of blacklists you from a lot of AAA devs, is because they just won't want you on their teams. So it is something that definitely happens a lot, and it's not a bad thing, because usually the blacklisting is like because someone did something really awful. But yeah, it does happen, and likely this person has put himself in this position of not really having an easy time in the industry anymore.
Yeah, as big as the industry is, your name travels around very quickly and very easily.
And it's also like anyone applying for a games industry job is going to be doing research on who they're applying to, or
for sure.
If they're employers, they'll be doing an interview and be like, "What have you worked on?" If they hear you're the Skullgirls dude who fired off the entire company, they're going to be like, "Well, thanks, but no." So yeah, that's the Lab Zero stuff. We don't have a lot of information on this because it's all coming from like tweets. The important thing is I believe this did happen in California, where basically firing everybody in your company with no severance is illegal. So
it's super illegal.
There might be some ramifications, but the reality is this doesn't always get caught unless it's a much bigger company, and Lab Zero was not very large. So it might just kind of die out. But yeah, it's super sketchy. Very much not cool.
Maybe the publicity will do them some favors just to get someone looking into it.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Okay. So after that really terrible news, we do have a bit of good news. Fall Guys raised $1 million for a charity called Special Effect.
Oh.
Amazing.
Yeah. They did a brand challenge, and they got Aimbot, the game thing where you have like the aimbot training simulator for FPSs, teamed up with Ninja, Mr. Beast, and I think G2 Esports. And
that's a stacked comp right there.
It's a stacked comp, and they banded together and paid $1 million to each get a custom costume in Fall Guys. So that $1 million is going to Special Effect, which it's a really cool charity, and that's just a nice little thing that happened. Been going for a while. We almost had a t-shirt from a bidet company be the winner. But I think it got a little too pricey for them. So
such a shame.
Such a shame. All right. Yeah, that's our roundup of that. Okay. So we've got a few other small bits of news. Namely, new graphics cards. I think
baby.
we have a few PC gamers in here that are probably mildly excited about this.
I want it, but Ben won't let me get it.
I want it, and then I look at my wallet, my bank account. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know what any of those numbers or letters mean.
Although important to note, these cards are a lot cheaper than people expected. At least the two normal tier cards, and not the enthusiast one that's $1,500. But the other two, the other two are, I believe, $400 and $600 respectively, which is a low price for NVIDIA cards.
Well, the tea is
normal.
hot, Ben.
It's normal.
Sips tea.
It's normal, but the performance to the price is a lot.
Yeah, the price performance is not. But it's basically like a 2-gen jump, or like a gen and a half jump per normally. Because like normally it's 15% give or take performance increase per generation. This is more like a 25 to 30%.
That's even more than that in some cases. Because if you're going from a 2070 to a 3070, it's almost twice as good.
Oh my god!
Right.
Which is a much larger leap than usually happens for the same tier of card.
But I think it's also making up for the fact that the 20 series was pretty garbage compared to the 10 series.
Well, it's also important to note the 20 series special thing was Pascal architecture, which handles
and
ray
was
tracing.
RTX that nobody cared about.
Which is
and
it's
still
cool.
Nobody cares about.
I mean, some people do care about it.
It's really cool tech, but
it doesn't sell cards generally.
It's not revolutionizing the gaming industry. Which,
as someone that has a 20 series card, I've yet to find a game where I can run ray tracing at a decent frame rate.
Yeah,
I do it in Control. Control's the only game I really use it in a lot.
And I mean, I get that was a fine marketing move by NVIDIA. I think now that they have RTX basically just baked into the price going forward, it's fine.
Yeah.
People aren't going to be like, oh, is it really worth that extra money to go to RTX when it's not really that much regular performance? Now it's just you get performance and RTX because they had another,
And it does show that I think the important note here is that it shows that PCs will still be competitive with consoles going forward, because there's been that.
That was never a question.
I mean,
did anybody ever think that for real?
Yes. So
well, they're dumb.
Marking out enthusiast level PCs, we're talking same price point. It's gotten harder and harder to build a PC that performs on the level of a new console at that console price, which is the important. I mean, the lower end stuff, not high end.
Right.
Well, especially when the Xbox One X first came out, there was this big thing about a $500 PC compared to a $500 Xbox One X is actually.
It takes a lot of work and a lot of luck.
Yeah, the difference there, especially because PC prices fluctuate all the time, it was very difficult to get something that had the same kind of.
And people often forget you need to buy a keyboard and a mouse with a PC. It's not just the PC you're paying for. You also have to pay for peripherals if you don't have them, and then if you do have them, the price is cut down pretty dramatically. But yeah, it is still going to be a thing this console generation of the new consoles are very powerful looking, and it's going to be very hard to build a computer for the same price that competes with them.
I feel like this new generation of consoles isn't going to have the same issue as the one that we're in, the one that's ending right now, because I feel like the performance of this most recent generation was really disappointing, not just to consumers but to developers, because I seem to remember there were a lot of
CPUs are basically the same as the old generation.
Well, that's the thing. I remember so many stories of developers having to take extra development time to work on their games because they expected the hardware to be much more powerful than it was. So
people were having to remove content from games, because a big problem of RTSs on consoles is often that they're too CPU intensive. To run, so you have to design them around consoles for them to work. And that's why Halo Wars is designed specifically to run on console.
Another good example of that is City Skylines.
Absolutely, City Skylines runs pretty poorly once you get.
Well, it's not even that. It's just you have a considerably smaller population and building limit.
Yeah.
In City Skylines on console, where in PC you can get mods that make it unlimited if your PC can handle it. Of course, your PC can't handle it because City Skylines doesn't run particularly well.
But that is a thing you have to contend with. But if you already have a PC and you're looking to upgrade, this looks like a very good graphics card generation to get in on.
Oh, did you hear that, Ben?
Yeah, I did.
And Ben is already fine. Ben's got a 2080.
No,
right?
She's talking about her graphics card.
Yeah.
Which is a 2060 Super. So
still great.
Yeah, I picked up a 2070. It was last year. So
Yeah.
I'm good for a little while.
And an important note to say, like, you don't need a new card right now. There's no games coming out that are pushing
I just
them
want
particularly
the best
far.
of the best.
Yeah, so
That's
do
a
I.
bad thing to shoot for.
But we have no money.
You know, I would say I would say that like probably Cyberpunk is gonna be pretty demanding, but I've heard it's actually incredibly well optimized. Like
Yeah.
I remember
because it has to run on current gen hardware.
Well, that's the thing. I remember I think it was SkillUp did an impressions video on it, and he was playing it like all max settings with RTX on, with like, you know, not a cheap PC, but not like an enthusiast grade PC, and it was running really like surprisingly well. Because that's usually like ray tracing is like as soon as you turn that on, your frame rate is like halved.
Here's the thing that I like about having a very good PC is like, for the most part, if you have a 2070 or more, it's the game's fault your game's not running well. It's not your card's fault. Your computer is not at fault here.
Yeah.
Like, you should be getting 60 FPS at 1080p and everything. And if you're not, there's some optimization.
It's also right now, it's a lot more common for, I think, CPUs to be bottlenecks because people tend to not upgrade them.
Yeah.
And they tend to be usually a little bit sidelined in like laptops because they're harder to cool.
And the one important thing that when you're, you know, building a PC, not just the PC, but the entire setup, one really important thing to remember is I feel like people really undervalue how important like a good monitor is, and like getting the right monitor for the price point that you have, because you can have it like you can have the exact same PC, and if you have two different monitors, you can sometimes feel like you have a very different like experience in terms of performance.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's also like, why would you get a 2080 Super, 2080 Ti, or a 3090 or all this stuff if you're not going to have at least a 1440p monitor? You know?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point? You're going to be getting 280 FPS 1080p, but you could be getting 200 at 1440p, and you'd probably the game would look worlds better. You know?
Yeah,
it's because games are tend to be limited by the console generation we're on, and that is going to probably be a big thing this generation. Depending on how powerful these consoles are, we might see a push for like more particle effects and more things that are calculated using a GPU. Because right now that's not a huge thing in a lot of console games, but going forward, especially like we saw Kana in the Sony showcase that was taking a huge use of them.
Yeah.
And if that translates to PC, that might mean some older cards will be a little worse at performing than used to. I don't mean like 20 series at all, but like if you're on a 10 series or a 9 series card, you might start to run into some frame dips if you're trying to run on like high on new stuff. But
it's it's always interesting to see how, you know, even though you can build a PC that's like, you know, how many times more powerful than like a PS4 or an Xbox, it's really interesting to see console exclusives still be some of the best looking games because they have that much money to throw at.
Well, there's so much optimization thrown into them.
Well, and that's the thing, is that it's like, you know, Last of Us 2 is a PS4 exclusive, probably one of the best looking games to come out this year. Like,
absolutely.
I don't think, like, no matter how you feel about it, the game looks gorgeous. And
the game is awful. Oh, it's almost awful. The game is gorgeous.
We already did that podcast. If you want to watch the Last of Us Part 2 podcast, you can go back.
And yet, you know, the best looking game, you know, maybe ever made at the moment is running on a 6-year-old PlayStation 4. You know, performance is another matter, but like, it's pretty impressive.
Another good example is Ghost of Tsushima. That's fucking probably one of the most amazing looking video games I've ever played.
Finished that yet?
No, but it's really good. It still looks really good in the beginning. Like, it looks good no matter where.
You can't even have an opinion.
Okay.
Wow.
We also did a Ghost of Tsushima episode you can go watch. Right. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima is
where we talked a lot about the visual style. So, I think Ghost of Tsushima is a great example of the game not necessarily being that graphically impressive, like on a technical level, but the visual design just being so outstanding.
I watched the beginning of it. Like, I watched it play through, and even the beginning, it just looks great.
Yeah.
And that's on YouTube. Imagine what it looks like on a real monitor.
Yeah, I know. They probably look so much better. I mean, now that I have my own PC, everything kind of just looks so much better.
Well, it's you know, it's how Nintendo's been able to get away with, like, you know, comparatively speaking, the Switch is a much lower spec, but they have such strong art design in whatever game they're making.
It's because they're smart people who have an eye for design, and they know what they're doing, so they can make a good-looking video game without a billion triangles, as it seems to be, as that meme went. You know, whatever. How many? What was it? Triangles, polygons, and the PS5 reveal was like just trillions. It was so many triangles. Yeah.
The thing is, you can like already do that. That's not
right. I know
these are numbers that are pretty much meaningless. We need to see benchmarks of the games actually being run on it, which does tie back to like some people. That's why a lot of people are a little more optimistic about PS5's performance, at least right now, because we've seen games running on it. Whereas with Xbox One, we've seen, or not Xbox Series X, we've seen so few things actually running that it's just a little concerning. But yeah, that's what the generation's shaping up to be like. Okay, so we do have a new thing. We talked last week about Doom Eternal's DLC.
Is it DLC now?
Not yet. It's coming out soonish. But
what is it going to be on?
It's because they parted ways with Mick Gordon. We now have Andrew Hulshult, who is a similar sounding,
very good,
similar stylistically, but also very good. So they definitely found a good replacement. I'm excited.
I don't
to
know
see
who
what
these
makes.
people are, but
have they released any of his tracks yet? I haven't heard any.
You can definitely look up his tracks in other games.
What's his
name? Nothing for his work on Doom Eternal though.
I don't think so. They might have, but I'm not a.
Doom Eternal, the soundtrack still isn't on Spotify just because of the whole Mick Gordon mess. It's still not on Spotify, which is crazy. I don't know if it'll ever come out on Spotify.
Yeah, so he worked on Dusk and a Medieval.
Dusk is so good.
Yeah.
Oh,
He is working on Duke Nukem 3D Reloaded,
which is fun.
and Doom Eternal now. Yeah, he's done a lot. He did Quake Champions as well. So he's worked on a lot of arena shooters.
It's weird because like I haven't played the new Doom Eternal, but I'm like not a stranger to the soundtracks because I don't think like a single human being that pays attention to games now is. But like those listening to those and then having played Dusk, they're very different. And I don't know if he's gonna like, and even from what I've heard from his other like, because he does a lot of indie boomer shooter music. Like even his other stuff that I've heard is kind of more along the lines of Dusk, and I don't know if he's going to be able to capture like the same like the like all that crazy stuff going on.
So
the screaming guitars.
It's more. I don't want to say subdued.
Bulls on Parade might be.
It is Bulls on Parade.
Yeah.
It's more like ambient almost, which it'll be cool, but it won't be the same. I don't know if people are going to be like, "Oh, this guy sucks. I'm gonna be Gordon back."
I don't know. I'm excited to see him do his take on Doom.
Yeah, that's the thing. I would prefer this guy to do his own thing and not just try and copy Mick Gordon's. Because if you're gonna hire a different like let him do his thing.
Oh yeah, I know. It's just I don't like. We are not the gaming community.
Yeah, exactly.
The gaming community is going to be a bunch of babies probably, and just say that this new guy sucks. I want Mick back.
I don't envy his position at all because he's got such big shoes to fill.
He really does.
He's a very talented guy, but like you said, it's not going to be in the same style, and that's definitely.
I mean, if he fills them though, this guy will get instantly hired on anything he wants, pretty much. Like,
oh, for sure, yeah. He's already like #1 pick for any like boomer shooter-esque game like soundtrack.
Also,
much.
good point to point out that Realms Deep, who is a publisher that does, or not a publisher, Realms Deep was a show that showcased a lot of New Blood interactive games. If you don't know who New Blood is, they do a lot of callbacks to like early PS1 and PS2 era shooters, like and a lot of like classic Doom style shooters. So they did Dusk, they did a Medieval, and there's a huge sale going on for Realms Deep 2020, which was the showcase of some new stuff they had. So you can check that out if you want to play those games. They're really good. Yeah. So that's going on right now. We did see some new stuff from them too. We're getting a few cool new games that are in the style of stuff like Morrowind. Yeah, we got like a Morrowind style RPG life simulator. Not life simulator, but like RPG type thing. Inspired by like Doom style shooters. So it's a cool looking game called Graven. Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff coming out from them. Alright, so that's most of our small news. We'll probably come back to a few other things at the end just to clean up. But yeah, that's the small news. And by small news, I mean the cancellation of a studio entirely is not really small news, but
it is not Mario.
It's not actively affecting a lot of people.
Right.
So, okay. Now we're going to talk about Mario. there was a Mario 35th anniversary direct. This has been rumored for like 2 years at this point that this is going to happen.
Before you start, do we need to explain the Mario lore to anyone who might not be familiar with who this character is? He's kind of a niche video game.
I mean, yeah, Mario is.
lore.
You might be a little lost if you don't know the Mario Deep lore. I'm sorry if you haven't seen the Tanuki suit or Pauline. You know, this may not be the.
I don't even
for
know
you.
the Mario Deep lore. But again,
Very
I'm not a
few
Mario
people know
fan,
the Mario
so.
Deep lore.
I
I don't think any of us know the Mario Deep lore. All right.
Oh.
So, yeah, there was a Mario Bros. 35th anniversary direct, which showed a lot of stuff people expected and a lot of stuff people did not expect.
Right.
So, we're just going to go kind of in order of the things as they are in the Eurogamer roundup. Because I'm not going to just watch through the direct while we're doing this. But, yeah, so we got the big news, the headliner title, is probably the 3D All-Stars collection.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk about that at the end, because it's going to be the biggest part of the conversation. Almost certainly, I think. So we're going to skip past that and talk about Super Mario 3D World, plus Bowser's Fury. Coming to Nintendo Switch in February. So this is a remaster port with some new content of Super Mario 3D World, which is a from what I hear, really fantastic Wii U game, but of course it was on the Wii U, so not many people got to play it, including me. Which means I'm excited to play it. I played the DS like title that was in this like 3D World, I think it was 3D Land on the DS. That was very good, but this, or not the DS, but the 3DS. This is definitely a great game from everything I've heard, and people seem to be pretty excited. There's going to be multiplayer. We'll see if Nintendo does any good online multiplayer stuff with it. I'm doubtful, but people are hopeful.
I do want to say, when I first saw this direct, I had just woken up and I was very tired. When I saw Bowser's Fury, I legitimately thought I read Bowser's Furry for a second, and I had a double take.
He is.
Hey, you know,
I was like, "What am I looking at?"
Mario is in a Tanuki suit, if you know what I mean.
Right.
All right.
Is
And that's where
Bowser's
that
Fury?
conversation ends.
Is that a new thing? 'Cause
Yeah,
I don't
it's
remember
new.
that existing. Okay.
This is like
Just
the
making
same
sure
thing
I'm
they
not
did
going
with
crazy.
Captain Toad. When Captain Toad launched on Switch, they did like a little DLC for it.
Yeah.
That's right.
So it's I think it's kind of unclear if this is going to be like included with the game on Switch. This one I think is far enough back that it might be. Whereas Captain Toad was still pretty new when it launched on Switch. Yeah, that's the new content for that. It's a good chance to try it for the first time. Okay, so on to one of the bigger surprises. We got a Tetris 99 inspired Super Mario Bros. 35.
They did it. They turned Mario into a battle
Yep.
royale. They finally did it.
Where you play against 35 other players to become the last plumber standing. So this one is also very strange because this is where Nintendo starts to do their strange exclusivity window thing. This thing is launching on October 1st and will only be playable until the 31st of March 2021.
Wait, playable or available to
This
purchase?
says playable. I would assume playable because it's an online game, and if you just remove the ability for new people to get it, it's probably going to die. So this is just weird. It looks fun, but I am just very much concerned about the fact that they're making games only playable for a certain time period. And I do think this was confirmed to be free. Because
At
that's
least
what
it's free.
Tetris is, yeah. So it's probably just like a fun thing, but I don't get it.
I'm gonna come back to
Yeah.
this when we talk about the 3D. And
Yeah, it's
I have. Yeah,
this is
I have
just a
something to
weird
say.
situation because like the thing with the All-Stars is that it's pretty likely those games will be on the platform again in some other form. But with this, it's like they're just delisting the game. So this game will likely just go away. And there
Why?
might be people that are super into it, and I'm really sad about that. Like,
Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
to me, there's just no motivation for this because it's not like this is a collector's item, right? This is a game that is gonna be there online only and then just not playable again. It's so weird. Okay.
Wait, so it's only going to be playable for like a certain amount of time?
Yeah, it's only
Yeah.
playable for from October until March.
That doesn't
It's just such a strange call.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Exactly. That's what everyone's saying. It's Nintendo being Nintendo and just making weird decisions that no one really.
It's a Nintendo gotcha. It's a Nintendo gotcha. I don't even
understands.
know how else to describe it.
Yeah, it's their good old catch. No, it's like that weird fine print in the EULAs that you sign. Like, this product will only be available until March. Then it's going away forever. All right. So our next little thing is Mario Kart Live.
I don't know how this is real.
Did you say Mario Kart Live?
It's Mario Kart Live Home Circuit is the full title. This game is wild. Is I think the only way to describe this. It is a augmented reality game where you use your Switch to drive an RC Mario Kart cart around your room with these giant, like, I assume some like techie tagged goalposts that you place in your physical space and then like race around with AI racers on your Switch. But the cart has a camera on it that.
Look, I'm just I don't get it. I don't understand.
I feel like I would have been so into this when I was a kid. Like, this is 100% aimed at children, and I think it will do great with that audience. But man, is it weird. This is such a Nintendo idea.
Get it? Like, I feel like a dumb. I feel dumb, but like I don't get it. I don't know. Like,
kids on this planet exist, okay?
And this isn't aimed at you.
Look.
They like to have things.
Here's the thing.
You can use your hands.
If there's anyone this entire episode the person that is the most like a child in this entire group is me. Let's get that perfectly straight. So if there's anyone that should be psyched about this out of all of you, it should be me. I don't get it.
Wyatt, I still build Legos. I think I win. Okay.
I mean, are you saying that I don't?
I built.
Are you saying that I don't?
So.
I mean, I build those too, but I chose the more pathetic answer because that
I would build Legos if I had
I collect
any.
Star Wars Black Series figures, so you know.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's like a collector's thing, you know. This is just one of those things that like I think will absolutely appeal to people that enjoy toys, like people that like toys to life games.
I'm not, I'm more power to. I don't understand.
Yeah, I get why this is fun. I would play this if someone had it. I would not buy this.
Oh no.
Because like where would I put it is the big thing. Like where do you set this up? And it seems I could just have more fun playing Mario Kart 8.
Yeah. It's not like you're going to be inviting any friends over in the near future.
Yeah, I mean,
this is also true.
Yeah, this is just a weird announcement, and I think it's cool. It's a nice little showcase of augmented reality tech. Yeah, there's not a ton to say about this, to be honest, until we know how it plays. It looked like a traditional Mario Kart, but of course it's an RC car. So we're not certain like if it's gonna have collision with the AI. I assume there's like something in the game that can like tell the cart to stop if it bumps into something. But yeah, we'll see.
That is the thing, though.
Interesting piece of tech.
I don't know how well it's gonna like
exactly
how well it's gonna read the real life living room to turn it into like a video game thing.
And what they showed looked impressive.
But that's lies. That's lies, Ryan. You can't believe them.
Because like, look how good the camera quality is, like coming from the RC car, right? Like, it's not going to be that good. Like when it's being streamed to your Switch or whatever. It just I don't know how much of that, because that looks like a conceptual video and not like actual footage. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I don't know about that one, but
yeah. All right. So the next small thing we have, and I do mean small thing, is a Game & Watch. Nintendo's bringing them back. We are getting a Game & Watch in 2020, specifically November 13th.
So if you're anything like me, you're absolutely fascinated by these things, and you took a trip down history lane and looked at all of the crazy Game & Watches they've had over the years, like. Because the thing is that like a Game & Watch was made for one specific kind of game. which means that all of the entire design of the system was built around one game.
Mhm.
So each game had its own unique handheld, and they got crazy with some of these. Like I think I sent some of you a picture of one a little while ago, but there's one where it's like this little like it's just this little kind of oval shaped thing with a screen on it. You like open it and there's two little like wired circle controllers that come out of it
Yeah.
for like a multi. It gets nuts. And as someone who is like really interested in just handheld technology and just weird like handheld stuff, I'm absolutely fascinated by these things. And my problem is that they're very expensive. Like I heard this one's like $50 or
Yeah,
something
it's
like that, which is
$50.
a little, you know.
And to
crazy,
put in
but-
perspective what this can do, it can play the original Super Mario Bros., the Lost Levels sequel, and it has a bunch of Easter eggs like the Game & Watch Ball game and a functioning alarm clock.
With 35 secrets in it.
Yep.
The trailer said.
It's weird that it's $50 because I feel like the perfect kind of place to have these is like you go to a convenience store and they always have like that little kiosk with a bunch of random keychain crap
Yeah.
on it. That's for like a couple bucks. That's the perfect place for a thing like a
I mean,
Game
I think the
Watch Mini or
reality is
2020.
it's because this has an LED screen,
Hmm.
and presumably Nintendo tends to do high quality like D-pads and buttons on the retro stuff.
I guess, but like if you price it, if you put that much, R&D into this and price it at
Yeah.
that, it's an awkward spot for it. Again, like
It's like,
that,
this
like
is something
$3 to $4 like keychain things that you find at a Walgreens or something is a perfect.
I
place
don't
for
think
something
Game &
like
Watches were
this.
ever that cheap.
No, but
And I'm sure
but
Nintendo's
considering-
done research into it, and like they probably realized that they wouldn't sell as many doing that, at least for the amount of development it would take to get them to that cost. For them to be making a profit off of like $4, they would have to be really, really bad. Like,
I mean, putting aside that you can just emulate Mario Brothers on, whatever you have in your house, basically. Like, it's just releasing something like this for $50 when everyone has a smartphone.
and
in
like
their
you can
pocket
play
seems
Mario
like a
Brothers for
weird
free
choice.
on your Nintendo Switch if you have the online.
That's what I'm
service.
saying. It's
So-
I'm sure it'll be high quality, but I don't know if that'll necessarily be like the best choice for something.
At the same time, I think this 100% has a market because Nintendo collectors will buy everything Nintendo puts out
Literally anything.
instantly.
Which is why they can get away with something like
Yeah,
this.
it's just why like they can get away with the
Amiibos.
low stock on stuff like Amiibos and the SNES and NES Minis is because it drives prices up. So
That's
people
crazy.
buy them all. So yeah, I think this will definitely sell out. But I feel like this would have been a more comfortable thing at like $25 to $30 for like
Yeah,
a
not
stocking
50.
stuffer for a kid.
Mhm.
Right? This is for like your 6-year-old or something to play Mario on, you know? It's a nice, easy little cool toy. This doesn't really feel like something that I think anyone over the age of like 15 really wants.
It would be a
Unless
really
they're a huge Nintendo collector.
it's kind of like what you said though. It would be a really good thing to give a small child where it's like, they're interested in games. I don't want to give them a whole PlayStation 5 or something, but we'll start them off with something like this, even before a smartphone. Like it's a good first piece of technology for a kid, I think.
Yeah, it's a neat little thing, but yeah, we'll see how it performs.
I want them just to release more with like the crazy, wacky, like designs that they've had in the past.
Yeah.
Because some of those are so cool. Like, and it was the beginning of like it's the first time we saw the traditional D-pad, which they then used on the NES, and now it's become like industry standard. It's the first time you saw like a clamshell design, so it was almost like an early design of the DS and stuff like that. Like it's so cool and so ahead of their time when they first came out.
Yeah. All right. So we have a few small announcements. There will be a few online tournaments for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate that are Mario themed with classic Mario characters and items. Mario Maker 2 will get anniversary themed update in November, and Splatoon 2 will have a Mario themed Splatfest. So yeah, some fun stuff happening for fans of those games. You're getting some new content. And Animal Crossing New Horizons will be adding some Mario themed furniture to their islands, although confusingly not until March 2021. So this is like way behind everything else. So when you can cry about not being able to play Super Mario 35 anymore, you can go to Animal Crossing.
They'll taunt you.
and, and dream about it. Yeah, so I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird situation. You know what? I'm kind of half expecting Super Mario Bros. 35. They're calling it 35 clearly, like it's 35th anniversary, and they're tying the gameplay in with like the 35 other players. So I'm betting that game will come back in some form afterwards, but it will be a different thing. Like it'll be a battle royale with more players or something. All right. So now we're to our big news, our big announcement. And by big announcement, I mean we're getting ports of other games. We are getting the Mario All-Stars pack, which actually this was something we skipped over. The Mario All-Stars pack, which was released on the SNES, is now on Nintendo Switch Online, which allows them to play the Super Mario Bros., the Lost Levels 2 and 3 on the online service. So that's all available now. We are getting a new Super Mario 3D All-Stars, which has a bunch of new stuff. We get, well, new stuff, old stuff. It's got a bunch of old stuff that's being ported to new stuff. We get Super Mario 64. We get Super Mario Sunshine. And we get Super Mario Galaxy 1, but not 2. Just 1.
2 is not real because it doesn't have Rosalina in it, so I did not want to buy it as a kid, and I have not played it to this day.
Oh.
And I never will.
I've heard 2 is very good, and I want to play it because I have not played 2. I've played a bit of 1. And it was very good what I played of it, but it was a long, long time ago. So the confusing thing with these is I think some people expected it to be a little more remaster, or at least like up-res and like widescreenify 64. We're not getting that. 64 is not widescreen. It's still 4:3. It's still very low detail, which is a shame because like we have the DS version that is better.
That's what I was gonna say. Was that I'm surprised it's the N64 version. I'm sure, like, you know, nostalgia's sake, obviously, but like the 3DS or the DS or I forget which one, but like it looks like significantly better. So I'm kind of surprised that wasn't at least an option here.
Yeah, I do wish it was the DS version because it does look a little bit better. The textures are a little bit better. But yeah, it feels weird that we're just getting like Mario 64 being completely old. And like Sunshine has aged pretty well. It still looks fine. So I think Sunshine's a lot more forgivable. And then Galaxy still looks great. So those two are a lot easier to forgive. But 64 is aged pretty poorly at this point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And considering there's so many other, like the Mafia remasters going on right now, they just gave small updates to the 2 and 3 versions because they're relatively new. But to the first game, they completely redid it. Like, they redid everything. So it's weird seeing the same priced thing, right? Like, this is a $60 collection of these games, and it doesn't seem like they're getting the care that they should be.
Yeah,
it's a little weird.
I feel like ever since the release of, like... Now, I know it didn't launch in a good state, but I feel like the Master Chief Collection is, like, that's, like... in my opinion, that's, like, peak, HD or, like... franchise collection of a series, right?
For sure.
Like not only is it every game and multiplayer and feature, they've also been going through and like updating Halo 1 and Halo 2, and you can switch between the old and the new graphics. It just, after playing that so much, it feels like any other remaster just kind of feels rushed, and there was so much love, I think, put into Master Chief Collection that
that's
it's always
a way to put it.
Yeah. And again, it didn't launch well, but they definitely put in the effort to make it what it is now, which I think is a great, package. So I just wish that I had hoped that when MCC came out, that would kind of encourage developers to put more effort into their
and it has, absolutely, because like the Tony Hawk games that just came out are full remakes of extremely good quality, and it's $40. It's not a full price release. So it's weird to, and again, we have Tony Hawk, we have Halo. What was the Mafia remakes are doing really well right now. So yeah, we've seen a lot of really impressive remakes or remasters, and it's weird to see Nintendo of all companies not really taking advantage of what they could do with these games.
I always feel like it's a wasted opportunity when you're creating like a collection of games to not improve them in some way. Because I remember like another good example is the Uncharted collection, because not only do those games now run at 60 frames per second, which is already a humongous upgrade, but it's also the controls are a lot better too. Maybe that just has something to do with the 60 frame per second upgrade, but they control and they play so much better as a result. And it's always disappointing when you have a game that's part of a package that isn't, that doesn't take advantage of any modern features.
As we know, Sunshine will still be locked to 30, so we have again just this weird situation where the games just aren't getting the like treatment they deserve. And I do think like a lot of people will say it doesn't make a difference in sales because people will buy this anyway. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think hardcore fans of the games will, but there will be a lot of people who are like excited to play Mario 64 for the first time and then see what it actually looks like here and may just not buy it. Right? Like, I think that's the thing that will happen is new people that would be introduced to these games through this might not be as interested.
And that again, that's what was like, that was the magic, like the secret sauce of MCC, is that it had something for both new people and the old fans, because you can play the games in the exact same way as you did, on your original Xbox with the original graphics. But if you're a newer player and you want to see, Halo 2 with the anniversary graphics, one button press, there you go.
And no loading either. It's instant. It's insane.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. Super impressive.
Mm-hmm. And I do think it's important to point out, like, Mario 64, even though it's very dated, still looks pretty good in motion.
Oh, sure.
It's just like the character models and the environment models are very flat and very clearly low res.
It's an N64 game.
Yeah, it's an N64 game, and it looks like it. But it still plays extremely well. It feels extremely modern. Like, going back and playing Mario 64 anytime recently, you can just tell, like, that game is so well designed. It runs incredibly well on the old hardware. Like, it's just such a well-handled game that I think if this is your first exposure to it, you'll still have a great time. It'll just be a little hard to get past that initial, this game looks real bad. Bit.
I wonder if, like, because the visuals, like, for 90% of the games, like, when there's a remaster or something, like, the visuals and how well it runs is, like, first thought for, like, almost all the people that are going to look at it or buy it. But something we haven't mentioned yet, and I don't know how popular this is going to be for the new one, is that I have a bunch of friends, and there's, like, a huge population of people who are, like speedrunning Mario 64 is, like, their jam.
Mm-hmm.
That is a huge speedrunning game. And I don't necessarily know how, like when Dark Souls Remastered came out, like, it's been out for a while, and most of the speedruns and challenge runs still happen on the original Dark Souls, just because for whatever reason, like, the whole architecture of the game is, like, different, so old mods don't work and that kind of thing. But with something like this, it's like, does the backwards long jump still exist? I don't know. It's weird because, like, I don't know if it still works in the DS version, but even in, like, the disparity between Japanese and American releases of the original Super Mario 64, like, certain mechanics just aren't the same. For like a normal player wouldn't care about them, but, like, a speedrunner would. And I'd be kind of curious to see, like, how many people would try to look into it to see if they could speedrun a newer version and then kind of be, like, disappointed, or maybe there's some new crazy thing. I don't know. It's something to think about.
Yeah, and I think a good game to kind of bring that up with now is the Tony Hawk remasters. So I played tons of the first two Tony Hawk games when I was a kid. Like, Tony Hawk is the one, like, extreme sports franchise. That and, like, SSX Tricky were my jam. And playing the old levels, the way Vicarious did the remaster is that, or the remake, is that all the gameplay mechanics are updated to be in line with the later versions of the games, but the maps are the same. Like, some of them have a few, like, small additions and in new spaces, new goals and whatnot, but the map layout is the same. So, like, if you did a line, a like skating line in the old games, it's the same line in the remakes and it'll still work, which is, it just shows the care they took in remastering that. And I think it shows that Nintendo could have remastered 64 and kept all the intricacies that people love about it. It would be a lot of work. But yeah, they could have done it. It's a little disappointing to see them not doing it.
Because it's not like it's a small indie studio. It's Nintendo. Damn
Nintendo
it.
is a small indie studio.
And as
I
someone,
really hate how they treat it like that sometimes.
yeah, and as someone who is more immediately interested in Zelda than Mario, it makes me very hopeful that we'll see some kind of like 3D Zelda
Oh,
collection or
totally.
Yeah.
something. And I would be
Speaking of
I
which,
would
Zelda's 35th
so
anniversary
down.
is next year. So
Yeah.
Oh my
No,
god.
look, man, look, at the end of the day, I want Wind Waker on Switch because I never had a GameCube, I never had a Wii U, so I've never been able to play Wind Waker before.
yeah,
And I'd be very excited.
Wind Waker is excellent.
I
very
want
excited.
Twilight Princess so bad.
Yeah,
So bad.
I very much hope we get a collection of like Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, and Ocarina of Time would be like the 3 big ones I think to include in an All Stars version of that.
Which means they have to not include at least one because not everyone can be happy.
It's been really interesting. Speaking personally for a second, it's been really interesting because like I've never been like before the Switch came out, I was never a big Nintendo person. Like I grew up with a Game Boy, but I mostly played games that weren't like Nintendo specific. They were more just like games made by other people that happened to me on Game Boy. And I always just grew up with, Xbox and then eventually, PC and PS4 and stuff. But I never really like was interested in a Nintendo console until the Switch came out. And then I started playing games like my first Mario game was but the first one I ever completed was Odyssey. The first Zelda game I ever completed was Breath of the Wild. And now it's like they're bringing all their old games to the old, back to the Switch. And so it's been really interesting for me. It's like, oh, I kind of know what I've been missing now. I can go back and see what I've been missing my entire life. So it's been and it's all on Switch, which is really great. So it's a great way for me to like catch up. Basically.
Yeah, and I think the one real benefit Nintendo has over a lot of other companies is that they design in art styles that tend to age really well.
Mm-hmm.
So even the older games like Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, and even to a degree Ocarina of Time, still look pretty good in action.
Yeah.
Wind Waker especially because of how unique that art style is, but
So
it means they have the benefit of like you can get a new person into Zelda much after the fact by playing an older game and then just enjoying it. Like there's no barrier to enjoyment there. And I think that's super key. And the games tend to also be simplified and streamlined to the point where they're easily playable by anyone.
Yeah.
But they still have the intricacies that appeal to people that do like speedrunning, and like Nintendo has one of the most vibrant speedrunning communities because of how fun to play their games are. So I think that's a big benefit they have, and hopefully we do see some Zelda stuff for the 35th. I think Zelda also has the benefit of definitely Wind Waker and Twilight Princess don't need a new remastered version to be in a collection.
Not, yeah.
They both look good enough, and they've already had their like HD versions on Wii U. So I would love to see that
even
again.
if they just had like a an up-res version of like the 3DS version of Majora's Mask or something like that, because that received a huge visual overhaul for the 3DS. So if they were just able to like, have that at 720p for handheld mode and then 1080p for dock mode, it would look great.
If we're being honest, what I have a feeling they would do if they did an All Stars of Zelda, it would be Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and Twilight Princess, or Wind Waker, and then either Twilight Princess or Wind Waker would be sold separately. It would be my assumption as to what they would do. I would much prefer they put them together.
Yeah.
Especially because like Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time are so closely entwined. It's like the only direct sequel, aside from the new Breath of the Wild 2 coming out, that exists in Zelda. So
yet again, that's the other really special thing about, I keep coming back to it, but MCC is that they'll release a collection and then they'll add more to it post. They'll add whole other games to it, which has not really been done a whole lot. Like I off the top of my head, I can't think of any like HD collections or remastered collections of a series that then adds entire games post launch. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
People are thinking the Tony Hawk remasters might do that because they use the gameplay of the final game in the original Pro Skater series, but the final game isn't in the remaster yet. So there's assumptions that they'll probably either add them via DLC or free updates, which would be really, really cool. But we'll see. And yeah, I do wonder what they would do with all the like weird DS Zelda games. Because we have a bunch of those like Spirit Tracks and what was the other one?
I mean, you know,
There was
if
a sequel to
they don't
Spirit
port
Tracks.
those, I wouldn't be. Because here's the thing: is that the first Zelda game I ever completed was Breath of the Wild. The first Zelda game I ever played was Phantom Hourglass.
There
Oh,
it
yeah,
is.
Phantom
And I
Hourglass and
hated
Spirit
it.
Tracks.
I hated it.
I
I
don't
did
know if
not
anyone
like it.
likes it.
I had
I-
fun with it on the DS, but I've heard Spirit Tracks is very good.
That control scheme, no, I didn't like it.
But
at all.
imagine that game with a correct control scheme.
With a correct.
It's not even like a good one with one that functions.
Maybe.
I would have a lot of
I
fun
don't
with that.
know.
Dude, when are we gonna get the Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons remasters that they deserve? That's like a semi-serious question because I'm pretty sure I might be the only one that cares about them here. But
I
those
would
are
like them.
some fun games.
I didn't know for the longest time those weren't developed by Nintendo.
I
Well,
was
not-
today years old when I found that out. Are you kidding?
Like it took me such a long time. I was like, oh, there's Zelda games. I never really heard that much about them for the longest time. And then I was
There's
like,
been a
oh.
few Zelda games developed by other developers.
Well, most of them we don't talk about.
I mean, Hyrule Warriors is really good.
Yeah, Hyrule Warriors is fun. If you're into, the warrior style game, it's really
Yeah, that is certainly appeals to specific people, but it is a great Zelda take on that series. And yeah, we did forget to mention not the Wind Waker, the Zelda remaster that just recently happened. I don't remember the name of it. It's
Link's Awakening.
Link's
right?
Awakening. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Which is also reviewed super well and is doing incredibly well from my knowledge. I still need to play it.
I've been playing through it off and on. I like it, but there are moments where like, and I think this is just because of its age. There are moments where like to progress in the story, you have to do the most random thing that like is so out of your way, where it's like I don't know where to go, and then I just start talking to random people, and it takes forever because it's not always like 100% clear what you're supposed to do. It's
That
very
sounds about
frustrating.
right from a game from its era that it originally came from.
It looks gorgeous, and I feel like a lot of it really does stand the test of time. Like a lot of it does. Like I think the puzzles are really interesting. The design of the dungeons is cool, but like there are just moments where it's like, oh, that's what you had to do, really? Like what?
Yeah, I absolutely get that. A lot of the Zelda games do have some like weird, eccentric things you have to do, like almost old school point and click style.
Not really.
Breath of the Wild does at some points, but it's all in side content. It's not in the main stuff. Like there's a lot of weird stuff that happens in the Hero's Ballad stuff, and getting the Master Cycle is pretty crazy, where you have to like take the one hit thing and then go through that.
I like the Master Cycle; it's fun.
Yeah, but you did have to do some weird stuff to get it, so
yeah.
that certainly still exists. It's just a little bit less common now. Yeah, I think that's most of the Nintendo wrap up. Unless anyone else has final words they want to say on Mario or Zelda.
I hate random Nintendo crap like this where everything is, available for a limited time. Just like weird Nintendo quirks that a lot of Nintendo fans just seem to like deal with or like, not talk about it.
That is true. We didn't really talk about the fact that All Stars is only available until March.
Why?
It's such a weird decision. And they're doing it with the digital version too. It's not just the physical being a limited run, it's the digital version also being limited.
I don't understand why anyone can, other than I don't even know if I can understand Nintendo saying that's a good idea, because like, yeah, you'll make a lot of money right away from people that are like, well, I guess this is my only chance to get it, so I gotta get it now. But like, I don't know, there's some games that still sell for a really long time, like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe,
which is still in the top sellers.
Well, the problem is you have so many Nintendo fans. Like I said, you have so many fans that either try and defend
shills. Why? Just call them shills. Call them what they are. Why?
they either try and defend it somehow for some reason, or they just ignore it because I need me more Nintendo in my life. And it's like I hate that they can get away with this crap because it's Nintendo. Like I mean, if EA tried to pull something like this, hell no.
I
Like,
get it.
there's no way. But Nintendo can get away with it. It's
Because
very
they are a
frustrating.
small indie company from Japan.
It's not even that. It's the excuse is, oh, it's Nintendo. Like, it's not even that they're a small indie studios. That that's
You
a
just
Nintendo
say the word
thing.
Nintendo, and then people are too stunned to reply.
It's. I just
Although-
I don't
yeah.
want them to fail, but I want these stupid business practice crap to fail. You know, like I want it to
Yeah.
blow up in their face and then have them realize that they can't get away with this.
I want
I
them
mean,
to
it
have
did with the Wii U.
consequences.
That's what happened with the Wii U. Is they realized their hardware practices were super just weird. Like,
Well, I feel like
they
part
make
of that
this funky
too.
console that doesn't work. They name it poorly, and then they realize that
I think I think the larger issue with that though is just they didn't market it very well at all.
well, because
I
it's super confusing. The thing is, a lot of Nintendo sales, because they appeal to kids, happen from like parents and grandparents seeing it in a store and being like, "Oh, my kid would love this." And when you see something like called the Wii U and there's a Wii on sale, you're probably like, "Oh, but I don't know if they have the Wii, so they might not be able
that's
to
what I'm
use the
saying.
Wii U."
That's what I'm saying is that they didn't market it very well. They
Well,
didn't
that's
make
also
it
the
clear
name.
whether
Like that console should not have been called the Wii U.
no, but I feel like that's also partially a marketing thing.
Yeah, but
So,
those parents
they
aren't going to
didn't
see
do-
that advertisement. They're going to find it in a store. Like, it's not something that they're going to be exposed to generally on like TV. So
I suppose, but I don't know.
it's like there were a lot of problems with the Wii U's launch. It's a lot of things were wrong. It wasn't just like one specific thing that you can point to. Because like what you can see now with all the Wii U remasters doing so well on the Switch, that the Wii U had some great games, but they were on a platform that just wasn't good. It's not even that the console was bad, it's just it was so poorly executed. And like it felt like a plastic toy. It was weird.
And kind of on the same track as that, this was also within this week. It was very recent. They changed their return policy, so you can return your pre-order of a game, but it's this weird
Yeah.
like
You can
span
only
of time.
do it up to a week before launch.
Yeah, that's it. Why?
Like why that marker? Why a week before launch?
Why a week before you can return something? Why are you still using friend codes in the year 2020? Just all this stupid little stuff that like they get away with because their fans are just so complicit.
Well, I don't even think it's a they get away with. It's mostly an exclusivity deal where like if I want to play the new Mario, I have to play it on Switch. Like it's not going to come to anything else, and never will. And for a lot of companies,
I'm not talking about games though. I'm just talking about how they handle their services a lot of the
but
time.
the game's sales are what allow them to do that because they get enough money from selling these great games that they don't need to worry about the hardware or these like things that we would take for being just normal human generosity in games industry that Nintendo just like doesn't do. Nintendo's just in a weird spot where like they're constantly held on a pedestal and also constantly an example of like how to do some things pretty wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's definitely not something that'll change much until like leadership at Nintendo probably ages out, to be honest. Just because of like a lot of Japanese culture kind of leads to that.
Yeah.
And it's just the way things kind of are, and there's not a lot you can do about it. Which is it kind of sucky to say it that way, but that is what happens. Yeah, that's our big Nintendo rant for the day, I think.
We rant because we care. We rant because we love them and we want them to do better. Let's keep that in mind.
So I mean, the thing is, Nintendo's mostly does good stuff. It's just like they're so backwards in a few specific things, and they're constantly the same amount of backwards. Like they never get any better. It's just these weird decisions like, oh, let's only sell this game until March.
And then in other areas, they're super generous in terms of like how you can split up your Nintendo online like payment.
Yeah.
Because like right now, I mean, I'm in a family plan with a bunch of my friends, and we're basically paying like $4 a year.
And you also have like
Because
the entire catalog of the best SNES and NES games at this point.
Yeah. And it is still, even if you're paying it by yourself, it's still the cheapest.
Yeah, it's $5
service.
Or like I think it's 30 for a year. It's not bad.
They didn't improve the server quality at all. But
Yeah, that's
Fine,
always the
they're
weird thing is
Nintendo.
like why can they just not
Shut up.
get online?
Yeah.
It's very
I
strange.
to this day still have not had a good match, a good online match in Smash Brothers. It's
Yeah,
terrible.
it's just their architecture isn't suited for handling it. It's so strange. All right, so yeah, any last minute Nintendo talk?
I just want a remaster of the 3 original Ace Combats, man. That's not Nintendo. My brain's on it now, and I just want to play 0, but in HD, and I can't.
I've been waiting many years for the return of Advanced Wars, and we haven't gotten that yet, and I'm very mad about it. So Nintendo.
Can't say Wargroove is pretty good.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
I know it's not military; it's fantasy, different thing. But yeah, it is a sad day that we don't have another Advanced Wars game.
Yep.
All right, so we'll cover. We've got a few small pieces of news. We have Peril and Gorgon has got some more gameplay. So if you're into the Outer Worlds, that DLC's got some gameplay you can go watch from Gamescom.
I didn't want to watch it because I didn't want anything to be spoiled.
Yeah,
quite
but maybe
honestly.
if you're not sold on it yet, you can go watch it. I haven't seen it either, but it exists. Cyberpunk 2077 is getting a like GeForce RTX 30 series gameplay thing. So we'll see if they do any other deals. They might like bundle that with cards. That tends to be a pretty common thing for NVIDIA. So we'll see if that's a thing that happens. Path of Exile, new league, coming in I think 2 weeks. It's called Heist.
And before we go too off track with CD Projekt Red, they're also providing next-gen upgrades for Witcher 3, and it's a really extensive upgrade from what I understand.
Yeah, so it includes ray tracing and much faster loading times, and is free for anyone who owns the game on consoles or PC right now.
Which
On
is
the
way
on the
it should be
platform
done.
that you have it, I believe. So yeah, we do have a cool piece of news. This is like weird game things. People have finally found the title screen world from Minecraft.
Yeah, that's right.
From the OG days. That pack.png is what it is. The file was called of the like image of the world. The seed is just a bunch of numbers because like the only way to do this is to find it with actually like randomly doing the seeds, and you have to generate them in the old versions of Minecraft because of the new things being completely different. So the world gen changing over time. So the way they found this is you have to create a world, find the world in local files, remove all the data except for level, and then edit the dat file using a file explorer like text reader editor, and then change the seed to the one that they have. So it's a process. I'm impressed that this actually happened. It's kind of wild. All right, so we do have something from Square Enix. Let me read this. This is relatively new. It happened just before this podcast. So Square Enix apparently wanted a gaming site in Europe to give the Avengers the same grade on all European outlets of that site because of some weird stuff. So this was it's a website called Game Reactor, and they were confused as to why the game didn't have like the same grades across different areas, and because Europe is like so much more diverse than America, you have like you might have different languages for countries that are right next to each other. There are often different people handling reviews on the same site for different audiences. So it was getting different things, and there was a weird thing with Square Enix kind of not really liking that. So
that's the problem with large review sites, is that it's not one vision, it's not one opinion. So you have to be really careful about who's writing the specific review. Like even if it's an IGN review, there's different people that are writing a review.
Yeah,
So
there's also a lot of weird stuff here where this could apparently be part of the advertising company handling it. So it's just a weird situation of like just being very strange. It's a lot of weird information that is coming from like a Norwegian publication, so it has to be like translated and then like clarified. So and that's like from just before this. Yeah.
That is a very Square Enix issue.
Yeah, Square Enix has been taking a few steps back as a publisher recently. Like,
they've always been weird.
it was always been weird, but they had like the whole Square Enix collective thing. They're just kind of not doing a ton. Okay, so yeah, that's our big news. PUBG has been banned by the government of China, so
Okay.
no more PUBG in China.
Oh no.
Yeah. Madden and this is fun. Madden NFL 21 has the lowest Metacritic score of all time.
Yeah, because it's dumb.
That's just funny to me.
I mean, you want to talk about fans as something that'll just take whatever crap they're given. Like, holy crap! I don't understand. Like, I don't want to be mean when I say this, but
I know I understand playing sports games because like I love Tony Hawk and I love like any kind of extreme sports games. Like I played basically every single snowboarding game that's ever come out. But like those games come out once every like 5 years, so it's not.
Well, it's so weird that like there's so many people that just don't like. There's so many obvious things. It's like it's very obvious that they're like copy and pasting the game. And you can literally see like if you're playing Madden 2021, you can see Madden 2020 like assets.
I do remember
that
whole thing of like the year just being wrong.
It's just so obvious. There's so many issues with it, and they're I don't understand sports games fans. Like, I don't want to be mean. Like, if you like play sports games, like more power to you. But I don't understand how they could just be okay with any of this. It's so bizarre to me.
Absolutely. All right. So, other like little bit of news wrap up. Dragon Ball Fighters is hard going down on rage quitters. And you are liable to get a 1 week ban pretty much immediately if you rage quit, and then up to a permanent ban if you continue to do it. So it's the first fighting game that's like really cracking down on that, which is interesting to see. We'll see how that turns out. And we do have there is a major release, and by major I mean air quotes major remaster of Kingdoms of Amalur coming out next week on Tuesday. Actually, it's the day this podcast comes out. If you're listening to this podcast, you can go check out Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning, which is unfortunately named.
I've said this before. Anytime there's a franchise that hasn't been touched in a certain amount of years, and then a remaster comes out, that usually means a sequel or
they're making an expansion
a reboot
to it
or something. Well, that's what I'm saying. Is that usually if there's a remaster to a game that hasn't seen the light of day for a while, there's usually a new game coming down the pipeline.
And the interesting thing specifically with Kingdoms of Amalur is that it's one of those games that you think will just never have a chance of appearing again because of how the studio that originally did it closed down because they were sued by the state of Rhode Island.
That's a whole.
It was Kurt Schilling, the football player, started a game studio.
No, baseball. He's a Red Sox pitcher.
Yeah, baseball. Started a studio, and they made it. They were going to make an MMO. They made Kingdoms of Amalur kind of with some of the original assets from that MMO, but made it as like a prequel. So it has some of the like MMO trappings, and the map is very MMO-y. It's very like large scale, high fantasy.
The art style is very similar to World of Warcraft.
Yeah, it's kind of like a slightly more modern World of Warcraft in look, at least compared to when it released. Right now, World of Warcraft looks more modern.
And part of the problem is there was a lot of talented people working on that game, and part of the reason was they were just buying talent and not doing anything with them for the longest time. So they lost so much money just by hiring so many talent.
Well, it's because they were working on that MMO and this at the same time, and spending so much money. They were I think $1 million in debt by the time they had to get closed, and they just went bankrupt because they'd asked the state of Rhode Island for a loan to start the studio. Or to do something with development, and they couldn't pay it back, so the studio just completely shut down.
What Happened is a great series on YouTube that like covers stuff like this, and he has a whole episode dedicated to it. You should. It's crazy. It's insane.
The stuff I want to dive into this, I need to like look up and figure out, like how did the remaster? I think the remaster is being done by Microsoft. How did they get the license? Like
Kingdoms of no, I think it's THQ Nordic that owns the license, isn't it?
Let's find out. Who's
I'm pretty sure it's
from Rhode Island.
I'm pretty sure it's THQ Nordic.
It is. It's THQ Nordic, and it's being the developer of this is Kaiko, who has done Legend of K Anniversary and Darksiders War Mastered. Red Faction.
Ooh.
They did Red Faction. So they've done a few good like anniversary editions.
Mhm.
Yeah, they did the remaster of Red Faction, Gorilla, and Big Huge Games, which has only worked on Rise of Nations before this. So
I'm like half convinced you're making some of these names up, man. I'm not gonna lie.
it's a weird situation of like this is a company that made a remaster of a strategy game, now working on a remaster of an RPG, and it's apparently getting Kingdoms of Amalur will be getting a new DLC expansion.
What the hell, man?
Which is very
That's
weird. And it's also, the nice thing is this remaster is 50% off if you already own the game.
Oh.
And that stacks with the launch discount. So if you own the game already, it's 60% off on launch.
Pretty cool.
Which is very nice. I'll probably definitely be picking this up because I used to love the game. It's a great RPG if you're into high fantasy. Although it is a little more narrative, or like not narrative, but dialogue heavy and exposition heavy.
And it's not an open world RPG. Think of like something like Mass Effect. No, it's not. Well, not like one. It's not like Skyrim, like one interconnected.
Yeah,
thing.
it is.
It's more like
for the most part. There are a few locked off areas, but the world is a big open world.
Huh.
Yeah, you're misremembering something there.
I guess I am.
You might be thinking you do have to cross through a city at one point, and crossing through that city is the only way to get to the other half of the map. But yeah, it is for the most part open world. It might be that it's structured similarly to like Mass Effect Andromeda, where it has like a few big areas that are locked off.
Or like Witcher 3 kind of does a similar thing.
Yeah, that's a good comparison, I think. Where like I think there's one area that you can't access without like fast traveling, but
yeah, Skellige you have to fast travel to.
Yeah. So all right, we've covered all of our topics this week. We were gonna do a discussion about nostalgic games, but seeing as we're already an hour and a half in, we don't really have time to do that.
And I still have homework let's do tonight.
Yeah.
Same.
All right. So I'm gonna go ahead, wish everyone a good night. We still have to do some shoutouts. We still have to do some closing words. But you know, we all can agree that Marvel's was the worst beta of the series. So at least you can feel confident in that. The game, apparently a lot better. Apparently really fun if you're just into Marvel.
I feel like this, I mean, obviously it's not the same, but I feel in a very similar position where like no one thought the Sonic movie was going to be good, and then I kept hearing it was good, and I'm like, I don't believe you. I'm sorry. I'm in a very similar position. I'm in a very similar position. People are like, whoa, this game's not that bad. I'm like, I don't believe you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to go to shoutouts now. And you know what? We're going to start with Ben, because he's at the top of the list.
Shout out to Crusader Kings 3, because it's really fun, and I really want to play it.
Nice.
Right now.
Brett, you're next.
And it was free.
God. Shout out to Final Fantasy V for having the number 5 in it. I don't know. I'm like in the beginning, middle of playing it. It's pretty good. I don't touch that Steam port, man, because that is the most ugly, disgusting looking game I've ever seen in my life. Just emulate it or play it on.
Just do literally anything
PS1.
else.
Literally, it's so ugly. The original game looks fine.
Yeah.
I guess if you're into pixel art.
All right, I'm gonna give my shout out to Tony Hawk's Underground 2, which still plays extremely well, and is really really fun. But you can't get it literally anywhere. So hope you had a copy, but it's really fun if you do. Tess, you're next.
Oh, shout out to my friend John for making really good burgers that I had to mute myself to eat because the noises that I was making would have been good for the podcast. It was a big burger. I was struggling.
Wyatt, you're the only one left. That means you have to be the most impressive.
You really do.
I have two shout outs, two quick ones. My original shout out was, since we're on the subject of remasters, the highest graphical setting in the Crisis remasters called Can It Run Crisis, which I thought was funny. But also another quick shout out to one of my sound foam panels just fell off the wall while I was talking. So shout out to that as well.
Nice.
And
It's a ghost in your room.
I'm gonna have to put that back up, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, you gotta go punch that panel. Put it in its place. You know?
Do it before I go to sleep.
And while you put
Literally
that
put
panel
it in its place.
we're gonna play the outro. We're gonna get out of here, you guys. The podcast launches on Anchor and YouTube every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. And on YouTube. It's there too. Hope you have a good night, morning. Go drink some coffee.
At 9:30? Well, 9:30.
Yes.
If it's a morning, why not?
Drink coffee no matter what time it is. Don't
Right.
let Wyatt judge you.